Buckle up, because we're diving into ancient wisdom with a modern twist that'll have your stress ghosting you like free pizza vanishes at an office party. Welcome to the Stoic Path. Feeling like life's pitching curveballs straight at your face. Deadlines, doom scrolling, and your neighbor's 7 a.m. jet engine leaf blower. Yep, been there. But what if I told you there's a time-tested cheat code for staying cool in the chaos? Enter Stoicism, not about being a robot, but about mastering emotional resilience. And today we're zooming in on one of its most powerful tools, Stoic Mindfulness. So toss on that metaphorical toga and let's get into it. All right, let's kick things off with the granddaddy of this whole shebang. Introducing Stoicism, an ancient philosophy for modern life. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Philosophy? Sounds boring. But trust me, this ain't your dusty old textbook stuff. Think of Stoicism as the OG self-help guide, the ancient wisdom that's still surprisingly relevant in our hyper-connected, notification-blitzed world. So, where did this whole Stoic thing come from? Picture this. Ancient Greece, like way back in the day. There was this dude named Zeno of Citium. Sounds like a character from a sci-fi movie, right? And he started teaching his ideas in a public colonnade called the Stoa Poikile, hence Stoicism. These weren't just abstract theories, they were practical tools for living a good life. And guess what? They still work today. Think about it. We're constantly bombarded with information, expectations, and things that are just plain annoying. Social media feeds us a highlight reel of everyone else's seemingly perfect lives. The news cycle is a roller coaster of anxiety, and even figuring out what to have for dinner can feel like a monumental task. In this whirlwind, Stoicism offers a much-needed anchor. It's like having a mental shield against the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or, that passive-aggressive email from your boss. Now, let's talk about the holy trinity of Stoicism: virtue, reason, and acceptance. First up, virtue. Now, before you picture some medieval knight in shining armor, in Stoicism, virtue is all about living with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Basically, being a good human. It's about acting with integrity, even when it's tough. Think of it as your inner compass, always pointing you towards doing the right thing. And hey, who doesn't want to be a good human, right? It beats being the office villain who microwaves fish for lunch. Next, we've got reason. This is all about using your brain, folks. Stoics believed in thinking things through logically, rather than letting emotions run the show. It's about taking a step back, analyzing the situation, and responding thoughtfully instead of just reacting. Imagine your brain as a supercomputer, a slightly glitchy one sometimes, but still. Stoicism encourages you to actually use that processing power instead of just letting your feelings short-circuit the system. For example, instead of immediately flipping out when you get stuck in traffic, you might think, okay, getting angry won't make the cars move any faster. Maybe I'll listen to that podcast I've been meaning to check out. See? Reason in action. And finally, the big one. Acceptance. This doesn't mean just shrugging your shoulders and saying whatever to everything. It's about understanding the difference between what you can control and what you can't. And here's the kicker. Most things fall into the can't control category. The weather, other people's opinions, whether your favorite coffee shop is out of oat milk, these are often beyond your grasp. Acceptance is about acknowledging this reality and focusing your energy on what you can influence, your own thoughts, actions, and choices. It's like realizing you can't control the waves, but you can learn how to surf. All right, now that we've got the Stoic basics down, let's dive into the juicy part, the power of mindfulness in Stoicism. Now, you've probably heard a lot about mindfulness lately. It's all the rage, right? Everyone's talking about being present and whatnot. Well, guess what? The Stoics were doing it way before it was cool. But Stoic mindfulness isn't exactly the same as your typical run-of-the-mill mindfulness. While both emphasize being present, Stoic mindfulness has a particular focus, understanding what's within your control and accepting what isn't. This is the core principle, the secret sauce, if you will. It's about directing your mental energy where it actually makes a difference. Think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to steer a boat. You have direct control over the rudder, your thoughts and actions. You can choose which way to turn, how fast to go, within reason, of course. But you don't control the wind, the waves, or whether a rogue seagull decides to land on your head. Stoic mindfulness encourages you to focus all your effort on the rudder, on what you can actually influence, and to accept the things you can't. Getting frustrated about the wind changing direction? Totally understandable, but ultimately pointless. Better to adjust your sails and keep going. This leads us to the concept of present moment awareness. Now, this might sound like standard mindfulness stuff, but in Stoicism, it's deeply connected to that control acceptance principle. Why? Because the past is gone, and the future hasn't happened yet. The only moment you truly have any control over is right now. What you think, what you do, in this very instant. Think about how much time we waste worrying about things that might happen or regretting things that already did. It's like renting out valuable real estate in your brain to anxieties and what-ifs. Stoic mindfulness encourages you to evict those unwanted tenants and focus on the here and now. When you're fully present, you can make better decisions, appreciate the good things in your life, and deal with challenges more effectively. It's like having laser focus instead of a scattered, unfocused mess of thoughts. Plus, let's be honest, sometimes the present moment is surprisingly okay, even if the past was a bit of a dumpster fire and the future looks like a tax audit. All right, enough theory. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Practical Stoic mindfulness techniques you can actually use in your daily life to wrestle those stress monsters into submission. First up, we have the delightful technique of negative visualization. Now, I know what you're thinking. Negative sounds depressing. But hear me out. This isn't about dwelling on doom and gloom. It's about imagining the worst-case scenario in a controlled way, so you can actually appreciate what you have and prepare yourself mentally. Think about it. What are you really worried about losing? Your job? Your health? Your Wi-Fi password? Okay, maybe not that last one, but you get the idea. Take a few moments to actually imagine what it would be like to lose that thing. Not in a panicky, catastrophizing way, but in a calm, reflective way. What would be the absolute worst that could happen? And then think about how you would cope. The funny thing is, often when we actually face our fears head-on in our minds, they lose some of their power. And more importantly, it makes us incredibly grateful for what we do have right now. That slightly annoying coworker. Suddenly, not so bad compared to having no job at all. That minor inconvenience doesn't seem like the end of the world when you consider the possibility of something truly difficult happening. It's like a mental vaccine against future disappointment. Plus, when the actual bad thing, hopefully it won't, doesn't happen, you're like, phew, dodged that bullet. Extra appreciation points for the universe. Next up, we've got the cornerstone of Stoicism, the dichotomy of control. We touched on this earlier, but it's so crucial, it deserves its own spotlight. This is all about constantly reminding yourself what you can control and what you absolutely cannot. Grab a mental whiteboard right now. On one side, write things I can control. This might include your own thoughts, your actions, your effort, your attitude, your choices. On the other side, write things I cannot control. This list is usually much, much longer. It includes other people's opinions, the past, the future, the weather, the stock market, whether your cat will ever truly love you. You get the picture. The trick is to spend your mental energy almost exclusively on the things I can control side. Getting worked up about something on the things I cannot control side is like yelling at a cloud. It might feel good for a second, but it doesn't actually change anything and just leaves you feeling drained and silly. When you find yourself getting stressed about something, ask yourself, can I control this? If the answer is no, then practice letting it go. It's not always easy, but it's incredibly liberating. It's like finally realizing you don't have to carry around that giant bag of rocks labeled things I can't change. Just drop it. Your back will thank you. And finally, we have the slightly morbid but surprisingly life-affirming technique of memento mori, Latin for remember you must die. Now, before you run screaming for the nearest therapist, hear me out. This isn't about being depressing. It's about gaining perspective and prioritizing what truly matters. Thinking about our mortality, the fact that our time on this planet is finite, can be a powerful motivator to live more intentionally. It helps us cut through the trivialities and focus on what's really important, our values, our relationships, making a positive impact. When you remember that life is short, you're less likely to sweat the small stuff, like that slightly burnt toast or that typo in your email. It's like realizing that the play is only so long, so you better make the most of your time on stage. Plus, it can make you appreciate the little things, a beautiful sunset, a good cup of coffee, a genuine laugh with a friend. All the more. It's a gentle reminder to live fully right now. Okay, so we've got the theory and the techniques. Now, let's talk about integrating Stoic mindfulness into daily life. This isn't something you just read about and suddenly become a Zen master. It takes practice, like learning any new skill. Think of it as building a mental muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. For me personally, Stoicism has been a game changer in managing stress. I used to get incredibly worked up about deadlines, about what other people thought of me, about whether my sourdough starter would ever actually rise. Still a work in progress, by the way. But learning to apply these Stoic principles has helped me take a step back, focus on what I can control, like actually working on the deadline instead of just panicking, and accept the things I can't. Like the fact that some people might not like my YouTube videos. One of the most helpful daily practices I've found is journaling. Taking just a few minutes each day to reflect on my thoughts and actions, and to identify situations where I could have applied Stoic principles better, has been incredibly insightful. It's like having a conversation with your wiser self. You can ask yourself questions like, what stressed me out today? Was it something I could control? How did I react? Could I have reacted differently? Meditation is another fantastic tool. Now I know meditation can sound intimidating, but it doesn't have to be all chanting and sitting in pretzel poses for hours. Unless you're into that, no judgment. Even just taking a few minutes each day to focus on your breath, to observe your thoughts without judgment, can help you cultivate that present moment awareness that's so central to Stoic mindfulness. Think of it as a mental reset button. And of course, mindful breathing. This might sound super basic, but it's incredibly powerful. When you feel overwhelmed or stressed, just taking a few deep, slow breaths can bring you back to the present moment and help calm your nervous system. It's like hitting the pause button on the chaos in your head. You can do it anywhere, anytime. Waiting in line, stuck in traffic, even during a particularly tense family dinner. The key to really integrating Stoic mindfulness is to identify your own triggers. What are the situations, people, or thoughts that tend to send you into a stress spiral? Once you know your triggers, you can start consciously applying Stoic techniques in those moments. For example, if you know that checking social media first thing in the morning makes you anxious, try delaying it and instead focusing on a Stoic practice like negative visualization or reflecting on what you're grateful for. It's like setting up mental tripwires for your stress and having your Stoic toolkit ready to go. Remember, this is a journey, not a destination. There will be days when you nail the Stoic mindfulness thing, and there will be days when you feel like you're back to square one, yelling at those metaphorical clouds. That's okay. Be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and keep practicing. Even small steps in the direction of Stoic mindfulness can make a big difference in your stress levels and overall well-being. And that brings us to the grand finale, embracing a more mindful and balanced life. So, what are the key takeaways from our little Stoic adventure today? Well, we've learned that Stoic mindfulness is all about focusing on what you can control, accepting what you can't, and being present in the here and now. We've explored practical techniques like negative visualization, the dichotomy of control, and memento mori, which might sound a bit intense but are actually incredibly helpful for gaining perspective and managing stress. And we've talked about ways to integrate these principles into your daily life through practices like journaling, meditation, and mindful breathing. Ultimately, adopting a Stoic approach to stress management isn't about becoming emotionless or pretending that everything is always sunshine and rainbows. It's about developing inner resilience, about learning to navigate the inevitable challenges of life with more wisdom, more clarity, and yes, even a little bit of humor. It's about taking back control of your inner peace, regardless of what's happening around you. The benefits of embracing Stoic mindfulness are immense. You'll likely find yourself less reactive to stressful situations, more appreciative of the good things in your life, and more focused on what truly matters. You might even find yourself developing a slightly annoying habit of calmly explaining the dichotomy of control to your friends and family. Use this power wisely. So I encourage you, dear viewer, to continue your journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Start small. Pick one or two Stoic techniques that resonate with you and try incorporating them into your daily routine. Be patient with yourself, celebrate your progress, and don't be afraid to laugh at yourself when you inevitably fall short, because we all do. Remember, the Stoic path isn't about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment. It's about the ongoing practice of living a more virtuous, reasonable, and accepting life. And who knows, maybe along the way, you'll even find that the neighbor's leaf blower doesn't sound quite so much like a jet engine anymore. Or maybe it does, but you'll just be a little bit better equipped to handle it with a Stoic shrug and a knowing smile. Well, folks, that's all the Stoic wisdom we have time for today. I hope you found this little journey both informative and, dare I say, entertaining. If you did, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more philosophical shenanigans, and maybe even leave a comment telling me about your biggest stress trigger so we can all commiserate in a Stoic way, of course. And remember, my friends, as the ancient Stoics might have, almost, said, don't worry about the donkey falling in the well. Focus on whether you remembered to bring a rope. Stay mindful, stay stoic, and I'll catch you in the next video. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a sudden urge to go practice my negative visualization about running out of coffee. The horror